All right, friends, there's no time like the present, and the present conditions that present to us here are two teams of titans facing each other, trying to find tabletop triumph in the March Mayhem Throwdown Challenge on Game Fight Show.
Game Fight Show.
I'm Rob.
Hey, Rob.
Yes, Brendan.
I'm Brendan.
Wait,
I just wanted you to know.
I'm Rob.
I'm Brendan.
I'm excited.
I'm confused. You said there's no time like the present, but I'm feeling like it's the past. Yesterday, we talked about the team of Jen Strogemuller, Helg Olderstack, and artist Dennis Lohausen. Publishing a game from Spiel. And what do we have today? Those same people. That same publisher. What's going on?
It's the Gaia Project. 5 years after Terra Mystica comes out, the public are loving it and they want more. Terra Mystica goes to space in the Gaia Project.
So some people, when this game came out, they just called it Terra Mystica in Space. But then we saw it. We saw there was a tech tree. We saw there were slight differences. People started arguing, which is better? Who knows which is better?
Whoa. You know who knows? The good voters here at Game Fight Show.
Game Fight Show.
Gaia Project is going to have to come after a true giant in the field. It's going after Wingspan.
Oh my goodness, Wingspan! That hottest of hot games from 2019. That dominating obelisk coming out of Stonemaier Games. That giant murder of birds flocking around us, pecking at our faces. From Elizabeth Hargrave.
This game was so hard to get your hands on. At one point, people were meeting trolls under bridges trying to buy a hot copy that fell off the back of a truck. Now it's a little more available, but it's no less beloved.
And now with the European Birds expansion, it's even getting better.
Hear. Now, hey, Brendan, I am looking at this. Is this the first game here in the March Mayhem bracket where every name on the list is a woman?
It's the first game in the showdown. Yes, indeed.
We have the designer, Elizabeth Hargrave. We have artists, including Anna Marina Martinez Jaramillo, Natalia Rojas, and Beth Sobel.
Beth Sobel, the titan of game artistry. She is a legend in her own day, and very quickly Elizabeth Hargrave, the designer of Wingspan, has joined her.
Well, could you be more excited when you hear the words Elizabeth Hargrave is about to come out with a new game? No!
I certainly couldn't.
We as journalists, Brendan, are held to a certain standard. There's an expectation of objectivity. I'm going to tell you something, though. There aren't enough women whose games are being published. Not as artists, not as designers. I'm going to give mad props to Stonemaier Games and this team of excellent women for putting together a game that has captured the joy and the imagination of the community. And boy, do I wish them well and hope that many other publishers take notice and follow suit.
You know, I think you make a great point there, Rob. Certainly our industry is not balanced in representation of all sorts of different people. And one of the things that makes Wingspan so great is that it brought a lot of people into the hobby who weren't interested otherwise. You know why? Because it has a different theme. Bird collecting, it's not really a theme you've encountered very much before.
You didn't know you needed it until you put it on the table and got to play.
Darn tootin'.
Now the fate of both of these games is in your hands. How will you judge them? Who will come out on top? There's only one way to find out, and what is that?
They're going to go to Twitter. They're going to look for @GameFightShow, and they're going to look for today's poll. Today's poll is going to have two matchups. The first matchup will be Gaia Project versus Wingspan. You tell us which game progresses.
Oh, but you're not going to want to sit on your hands this time, because those two are joined here in the match with Spirit Island from 2017, and do you believe it? Arkham Horror, the living card game from 2016.
Wow, these are two titans of game design, two monumental matchups, two games that have ghosts on the cover.
Yes, they do. This is also another example of let's hire a lot of artists.
No kidding.
Spirit Island, 12 artists.
the right number for a game about ghosts, but maybe they thought that was derivative.
But let me tell you, 12 artists working together to make a beautiful game.
Indeed, Spirit Island is a lovely game from Greater Than Games and first-time designer R. Eric Russ. I stand corrected, he did have one previous title, but this really made his name in the design community. You know, Spirit Island is this matchup here reminds me a little bit of our second matchup on the first day, Seven Wonders Duel versus Seventh Continent, in that the games are drastically different. This is going to be a tough one for the audience to decide. Spirit Island asks the question of its audience, what would have happened if ghosts fought back against the settlers of Catan? That's the basic premise, right? And then you have Arkham Horror LCG, a totally different kind of game. Still cooperative, though, so we do have two cooperative titans against each other. But, boy, Spirit Island has a lot to face up against.
No question. Arkham Horror, living card game. For a living card game to have only 6 artists is actually something that makes you sit up and take notice. I have to tell you, I really think Nate French and Matthew Newman, working with Fantasy Flight Games, really came up with a great game here in the Arkham Horror living card game. And you're right. This is another one of those matchups where it's going to put a certain segment of our gaming population really in a difficult position, having to choose between two beloved co-op games.
It sure is.
Much like fans of Dungeon Crawls would have been having a hard time back in the first bout, where Gloomhaven came up against Kingdom Death Monster.
For sure. So I'm going to make a pitch for Arkham Horror here. As much as I admire Spirit Island, I do want to remind people of the design pedigree here. Nate French, coming out of Fantasy Flight's LCG Farm Club
Factory.
He worked on the Game of Thrones 2nd edition, and he worked on the Call of Cthulhu game. So he knows both the property and some of the basics of LCG design. And then Matthew Newman, he was one of the lead designers of the Lord of the Rings card game. And when Arkham Horror came out, people said to themselves, hey, this game feels like they took what they learned from Lord of the Rings and they amped it up 100 notches and sacrificed it to Cthulhu.
Now, talking about learning about living card games, I wonder if it's going to have any effect the outcome of this bout, the way that Fantasy Flight has been playing fast and loose with their living card games lately. They've killed the Netrunner living card game and the Game of Thrones living card game. Do you think that people are going to be a little gun-shy when they see Arkham Horror come across the plate?
You know, they might be. The Fantasy Flight killed Warhammer Conquest. They killed the Star Wars living card game. You know, they've got a lot of blood on their hands. So I think there's something to be said for that.
You know what they say, though? Kill your darlings.
Do they? That's terrifying.
Well, darling, I'd love it if you'd go over to Twitter at @GameFightShow. Oh, that gong means it's time for us to throw to Eleanor with the results from yesterday's showdowns.
It's Eleanor with your results. 29th seed Food Chain Magnate failed to take out their opponent, and it was 4th seed Brass Birmingham who won their matchup and lived up to their name as they grabbed the brass ring. Meanwhile, 19th seed Root didn't miss that Terra when it was pulled up short by 14th seed Terra Mystica, who lives to fight another day. Back to you, Robin Brendan.
Thank you, Eleanor. Ooh. Well, I'm going to remind you one more time that you friends need to go over to Twitter @GameFightShow to vote. Will Gaia Project complete its goal? Will Wingspan rise above? Will Spirit Island ascend, or will Arkham Horror drive madness into their hearts and take the day? There's only one way to find out, and that is to tune in tomorrow and to vote today.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.
Game Fight Show.
I recognize that's 2 ways. Game Fight Show.
All right.